Hi there, Mr. Chan. Just going to walk you through how to start your inquiry, how to make one. Well, first the question is, what is an inquiry, right? Just gonna get rid of that. um, don't want anyone looking at my bank account. What is an inquiry? Well, the formal one, like the kind of big answer, would be the dynamic process of being open to wonder and puzzlement and coming to know and understand the world. What exactly does that mean? Well, in simple terms, basically it means an inquiry is all the steps of learning you go through when you're learning something. That's it. It's just like the many steps that you go through in order to learn something. There's good ways to do an inquiry. There's also bad ways. So I'm going to give you I'm going to give you a good way to do an inquiry right here. So step one, open, immerse, explore, blah blah blah. There's 8 steps. I'm not going to go through them right now. I'm going to do an inquiry with you, starting from the next slide, so that you can kind of see what each of these mean just by the action of doing them, right? So the first one is kind of open right here. So what is open? It says open is an invitation to inquire its interest. So, um, well, we got to find something we're interested in, something we want to check out. So in this case, we're going to do an inquiry on vaping because I don't really know much about vaping. I kind of want to figure out more about it. So the next line, it says immerse, build background knowledge, curiosity. So, okay, immerse. Um, you got to build your background knowledge because if you don't kind of know the background of what you're looking at, like if you don't even know what vaping is, how can you do like a deep question on it? Like that's ultimately what inquiry is. Like you got to come up with like a deep question and answer it. So if I don't even know what vaping is, I need to immediately go online and figure out what that is. Like I'm gonna, for instance, I went on Google Image, I looked up vaping, and I saw all these pictures of a bunch of people. It looks like they're smoking, but it's not exactly the same. Like this looks like a cigarette, right? But it's not actually a cigarette. It's something else, and something that looks like smoke is coming out of their mouth. So, okay, all right. That's a start, right? So then I move on to Wikipedia just to get like a quick and dirty kind of answer about what vaping is, and it says an electronic cigarette. You might not be able to read this, but I'm just going to read it out for you. An electronic cigarette, also known as an e-cigarette, um, is a it says oh man, I can't. It says is a battery-powered vaporizer that simulates smoking. So, okay, I understand that it says battery-powered, so that means that it's basically got a little battery that's charging the. It's what gives energy to the e-cigarette. Like, okay, just like kind of like a remote, right? But what's a vaporizer? So I'm just going to give you a quick example of how to use, how to figure out what a word means really quickly. So for instance, you can go define and write in vaporizer. So all you got to do is write define with colon and then the word that you want to look up, and then bam, off you go on Google search, and then it'll immediately give you a definition. So a vaporizer is a device that generates a particular substance in the form of vapor, especially for medicinal inhalation. So basically, a device, the e-cigarette, generates a particular substance in the form of vapor. So I think this is probably like an example of substance. You put the substance inside the e-cigarette, and then what comes out is vapor. Okay, so what you're really actually vaping is this substance, and what actually makes it work is a battery inside the e-cigarette. Okay, so like now I'm kind of understanding more what vaping actually is, just by kind of doing some quick searches. You can. I'm also gonna quickly do maybe like a YouTube search. What is vaping, for instance, just to get a quick understanding. Um, yeah. So there's a whole bunch of them, right? What are we gonna pick? Let's say this one here. Okay. It's talking about the vaping. whether vaping is healthier than smoking. Okay. You can't hear this. I'm just gonna tell you what he said. Okay. So he's talking about how smoking affects the lungs. Um, okay. So it's saying this doctor is also saying that, oh, the maybe the vaping, it's possible that the vaping is causing lung infections too. Like it actually also causes problems for your lungs. Um, Okay, so well, that's interesting. That's something maybe I can go into. So we've gone through open, we've gone through immerse. Now we kind of have build a background knowledge about what we're looking at vaping. Now we're going to go into explore and identify. So explore ideas that interest the students. So I kind of there's that idea. Is vaping actually healthier than smoking? I don't actually know. There's uncertainty. So this is the idea I want to explore. I'm going to identify an inquiry question. Maybe I want to do it around the health effects of vaping. Specifically, maybe if all these people, if so many people are vaping, maybe it's bad for a lot of people. So maybe what we could do is ban vaping. Maybe we can make it illegal. Should we even do that? Maybe it isn't that big of a deal. Who knows? So that's part of the inquiry is that we don't know. So that's why we have to kind of go out there and learn about a particular subject. That's the whole point of inquiry is learning. So I just went off in my head, as you heard. What I said was, is vaping just as bad as smoking? And that led me to ask the question, should vaping be illegal? So this is basically my question here. Identify an inquiry question. My inquiry question is, should vaping be illegal? And that's my direction for the inquiry too. Um, and just for kind of we're just gonna segue right now and just go in a different direction. Just leave it there for now. We've got our inquiry question, but I just wanted to cover something really quickly called the what model. And we're just gonna take a step back and just relax for a bit. I just want to tell you a story about me in Arizona. So I was hanging out in Arizona. I was doing recording school, which was quite kind of interesting. The majority of the people that go there are like hip hop artists or whatever, and they want to make their beats. Um, and I liked hip hop too, but I kind of wasn't in that world. I'm not American. I'm not like that. So I'm walking around in the petrol station, and I fill up my car with petrol, and as I'm filling it up, some fella walks up to me and he goes, "You want to listen to my mixtape?" And I'm like, honestly, I'm on the way somewhere, and I don't really want to. Is like the thought I had in my head, and I finish off the filling up my car. I'm like, "Nah, I'm good," and I walk away. And later on, I found out that what a lot of the this particular fella does is because another person I knew met him in the petrol station. This fella walked up to him, my friend, and said, "Do you want to listen to my mixtape?" He's like, "Oh yeah, I'll check it out." He took the mixtape, and the guy said, "Okay, that's $8." So he never said anything about how much it cost. It was just like, give me the money. So my friend, if you want to know what happened, my friend was just like, "What do you mean $8? Blah blah blah." They kind of had a little argument, and then my friend was like, "No, I don't want it." He just dropped it on the floor and just walked away. Whether or not that's like the right thing to do, I guess I'll leave that to you to decide. But yeah. So the what model, like if we were gonna look at our what that a situation was like, if we were gonna analyze that in terms of the what model, the what would be this fellow walking up to me and saying, "You want to listen to my mixtape?" The so what would be me not really wanting to, and then the now what would be, I want to walk away. So I'm gonna walk away so that I don't have to deal with this. Another example would be like if you're at your friend's place and they wake up before you do, and then that's always a problem because you're kind of just walking around, you eat breakfast, and you're like playing video games or whatever, or like watching cartoons, and then your mate is like just like he sleeps through like 1:30 or whatever. So you don't want to wake him up because that's not right, but you also bored as all hell. Um, so in this situation, I decided to wake him up because I ain't about to wait around. I had places to go, right? Um, so the what was me being at my friend's place and them and me waking up before they do. And so what? Well, the problem is I don't want to wake them up because it's not right. But if I didn't, I'd be bored as hell. And the now what would be I decided to wake him up. Yep. Okay. And I don't know much about. Okay, so the research thing that you did a few days back or yesterday, I'm not sure exactly when I'm doing this tutorial when you did it, but you searched up what your favorite animal was, just to kind of get a feel of like searching for information on the internet. So the what would be I don't know much about my favorite animal. The so what would be I need to learn about my favorite animal because I have a research project due in DGT, and the now what would be you searching on Google for facts about the animal so that you can complete your project. So now circling back to how it's relevant to our inquiry. So we're at gather and create. Um, it says find information from a broad range of sources and think about it broadly and deeply. You're going to be confused, you're going to be frustrated, but don't worry about that. And then you flicked on make meaning and create communications from the information. Okay, so find information from a broad range of sources. So when you go into your gather and create stage of your inquiry, what you're going to do is you're going to go online. You're going to find 4 articles. Um, you're going to find articles that are actually relevant to your inquiry question, and you're going to answer what, so what, and now what for each of these articles. So the what is you're going to explain what the article or video or news is saying, and then the so what is why does it matter to your inquiry? How does it actually relate to your question? And now what is how does it change how you're going to answer your inquiry question? What else should you do to make the inquiry better? So that I'm just going to give you an example. So here we go. This one right here. This is just an example of one article I found online, and this is my entry. So I went on this article and read through it. It's just talking about the harms of vaping. Should there be national panic, and should there be something should there be something that we should do about it? And we're not going to go through all of this, but during your research, you're going to have to read articles like this to kind of come up with your answer to your inquiry. Anyway, all of that, I kind of ended up condensing what I learned from it in here, these few words. So really quickly now, basically it just said a lot of American people in the past week, 503 patients were hospitalized. They were put in hospital because their lungs were infected. They had trouble breathing, and that's kind of that tied into what this doctor was talking about, right? So it turns out I think we're onto something. Maybe there is a problem with vaping. Who knows? Um, it's 503 people, but what we don't really mention, like what the article is saying, is the reason why people are becoming much more aware about it is because it's affecting young people, and these people are ultimately saying it should be banned because it's affecting young people. But in general, 480,000 people die because of smoking in America. Why don't people talk about that? Well, because they're older and it happens gradually. So it doesn't make people as outraged or afraid, because people seem to be more interested in protecting younger people. So that's basically what I said here. It also said that the majority of the victims were vaping THC, which is basically the main compound in marijuana. So it seems like what this article is suggesting is that maybe specifically vaping THC is causing these negative effects for people. It's actually what is particularly bad for people is just that substance. But then there's also other studies that say it's this thing called vegetable glycerin. So clearly, like the article is just showing, we don't actually know very much about what caused this infection. We don't really know whether it even is the vaping that's causing it. So just in general, we need to be careful about, we need to be skeptical or just aware that what these articles are saying are not completely correct always. Like you don't take everything as truth immediately. And that's something you should definitely always think about when you're doing an inquiry is just that thing, the CRAAP. I don't want to say it, but that thing, just make sure you keep that in mind about the sites that you're looking at. Um, and eventually, I just came up with. They also talked about how people are also buying. If we ban vaping, it'll force people to buy them illegally, and people that are buying um, vaping substances illegally will probably be in more danger than if they bought it from a store. Also, if vaping is banned, people may also move on to cigarettes, which isn't actually much better as a substitute. So, okay, this is the what part. I've kind of just broken down the most important parts of the article, what is actually what I think is important in the article, and this is kind of so what and now what. The why is it relevant to my article, and what can I do further after I've read this article. So, in this one, it says, sorry. Um, it says we don't really know too much about vaping still, so we can be we're not exactly sure whether it's harmful to people. There's increasing numbers of victims suggesting that they are though. So and also the article said that victims were vaping THC. So maybe we could look into how THC affects people and whether maybe because maybe the problem is that they're just specifically vaping THC, and that's causing the problem. So maybe we should look into the effects of THC on a different article, just so that we can kind of see, is it just that we need to ban in stores, or just ban that specific substance. So that's the so what is um, right there, and then now what is the maybe the further research, the further articles we're going to look up, what we're going to ask. Another thing was the problem is also if we're banning vaping, maybe people will move on to smoking, which is just as bad for people, and maybe vaping when it's illegal, people will be buying it illegally, which would be even more dangerous for young people. So maybe one way we could go about it is we could look up countries where some drug is made illegal and see how that actually affects the country, how it affects that society. And then that can kind of inform whether or not we think that vaping should be illegal in our country. So what I just said, the looking up different countries and the effects of making some drugs illegal, that would be the now what. Like this is the kind of this maybe we could research what happens to other countries when drugs are made illegal. The first half would be the so what. So why is the things that I've talked about in um, in the article relevant to my question? Well, because banning vaping could have all these bad problems that could come up in society. So this is a point for why we wouldn't want to make it illegal. And then at the end, which is it's something really nice to put down. It's just a quick um, reflection on whether or not I think like where I'm at. Like I basically admit like I've only seen one article, so I need to do more research on what the benefits and problems of banning vaping is. So because I don't have much information, but I also put my opinion based on the little information I have, and it says I do not believe it would be wise to ban vaping. So that's my opinion from now, but that could change. It could change during my next article entry, or this one, or this one. That's weird. I'm just gonna add real quickly summary of source here. Yeah. Yeah. So these are so in your inquiry, you're gonna have to do at least 4 of these entries. You're probably gonna have to do more though, depending on whether or not you actually answer your question deeply enough. Um, okay. Um, we will worry about this later, but generally when you get to the feedback part of this course, this assessment, when you're writing down your own self feedback and you're getting feedback from two peers, just come back to the slide and it'll tell you what you have to do. Um, and yeah, just quickly, the expectations are exactly the same for the Google Diary. Um, Sorry, yeah, the expectations in Google Doc exactly the same. It's the what, so what, now what. So what did you do in class? So what, and now what. So like this, what did I do in class was like I read this article, it told me all these things, and so what? Well, I'm asking this question: should vaping be illegal? All these things that I learned here, kind of gave me an idea about whether or not it should be illegal, because A and B, because making it legal could make cigarettes more popular, for example, or because young people might move towards buying it illegally, which would be more dangerous. So that's the so what, and then the now what would be kind of like I'm going to do more research on this and that and that. Um, this doesn't necessarily have to be this depends on what you're doing on the day, but it's essentially the same. All you got to do is answer the so what, the what, the so what, and the now what of your lesson. Why did you do what did you do? Why did you do those things in class? And what are you gonna do next in the next lesson? Okay. So thanks for listening to this. Yeah, you're gonna have to do 3 more article entries for. So if we open this up. Um, yeah, so basically you're gonna do 3 entries for this vaping thing. Use basically read over what I wrote here, and use the example questions. You can maybe look up like like the whole country. Look up countries where some drug was made illegal and see how it affects that country. That's an example of an art. What you can look up on Google search to get an article that would be related to your vaping inquiry in general. And you're just gonna do 3 more of these um, as part of your next assignment. Okay, thank you so much for listening. Good luck.